Yo, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today we're going to be doing some Numeron test hands. I'm really excited for you guys because this was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Dean. And this deck is a crazy powerful deck that can summon out one of the most powerful monsters in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! With the highest attack points in the entire game, sitting at 100,000 attack points, which is absolutely crazy that we've gotten to that number. So, without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name searched in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron along with test hands. And definitely give Dean some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into it. So this deck can actually summon out one of the most powerful monsters in the entire game, which is our Numeronia, which is a crazy powerful card that can actually come out at 100,000 attack points. And if that wasn't enough, this card actually makes it so that you have a win condition in the card that your opponent has to attack it, and if they don't, they actually lose the duel, which is just crazy to me that we have a card that's that powerful. And it's actually not the hardest thing to summon in the entire game. You can actually summon it fairly easily to your side of the field. Even summoning out number 1000 out to your side of the field with this particular deck is very, very easy, and I will show you guys definitely how to do that in this test hand video. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck, because you guys know it's dad rule number 1, you got to pile shuffle the deck. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what we can actually pull off, because this deck is just crazy to me, and it's so easy to get to the field spell. You need to get to the field spell as fast as possible because the entire deck revolves around getting to that one card. So now that we got the deck shuffled, let's go ahead and see what we can do. So we're going to draw into a copy of Numeron Wall. We've already got one of our multiple ways to get to the field spell in our hand. A copy of Memories of Hope, which is a draw 4, Planet Pathfinder, which is great, another copy of Planet Pathfinder, and a copy of Dark Ruler No More. So we have pretty much everything we need set up in our hand to do anything that we want to do to go into any powerful boss monster. So what we're going to do is, if we do go first in this deck, you usually want to go second in this deck because you can OTK in a single turn with this deck, because it's just so easy to put out really powerful monsters. But if we do go first, you have some very simple setup plays. So what we're going to do is we're going to activate the effect of our Numeron Wall, which you guys are unfamiliar with this card. It's basically terraforming because it has the ability, if you control no cards except Numeron Wall, you can quick effect send this card from your hand or field to the grave to activate a Numeron network directly from your hand or deck, which is super powerful because we need to get to that card as fast as possible, because you really want to get to that card so you can get your plays rolling. So we're going to go ahead and activate the copy of our Numeron network, shuffle up the deck because we just need to get to that card super fast. And once we do, we're going to actually activate the effect of our Numeron network that has the ability that you can send from your deck to the graveyard a Numeron card, and then it copies the ability. So we're going to activate the effect to be able to send from our deck to the graveyard a Numeron calling, which is really powerful because it lets us special summon out all of our gates, which is really good to summon out those gates. This is one of the OTKs of the deck. So what you're going to do is you're going to summon out to your side of the field number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 of your gates. Once you summon those out to your side of the field, you have 4 Xyz monsters on the field, and this is all possible because of this one crazy powerful field spell that has the ability that during the main phase you can send a Numeron normal spell from meets its activation conditions from your deck to the graveyard, and this effect becomes that spell effect, but you can only use its effect once per turn, which is an extremely powerful effect, and you don't have to detach materials from your Numeron cards to activate their effects, which is extremely powerful. So we sent to our graveyard the Numeron Calling, which says if you have Numeron Network in your field spell zone and you control no monsters, you can special summon 4 Numeron Gate XZ monsters with different names from your X deck, but banish them during the end phase, which is a crazy good effect just to be able to just get this card on your side of the field. You can actually just summon out these cards and then just get all the plays that you need. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and activate the Memories of Hope. And once you activate Memories of Hope, it's going to let us draw 4 from our deck, which is going to get us exactly what we need from the deck for all of our plays, because now we have a Lava Golem that we can tribute over our opponent's monsters, if we do so need to, just to be able to go in for more plays. So at this point, you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do. If you're trying to OTK, you can attack with just these 4 monsters, because when you do, you're going to go in for 1,000, and then this one doubles, and you go 2,000, 4,000, and then 8,000. So you pretty much have game right here with these monsters, which is just really good. But you can also go in for some other plays with this lineup. You can actually go in for a couple of different boss monsters with this particular deck. You can actually go in for your number C1, Numeron Chaos Gate Sonya, which is a powerful card that banishes itself and all the other cards on the field, which is just really good because this card can be overlaid on top of any of your Numeron gates, because it has the ability to execute summon this card on top of number 1 Numeron gate, which is pretty good because you're always going to summon that card. So once you summon the gates, you just overlay it on top of it, and it has the ability that once you do that, you can execute summon this card, banish all monsters on the field, which just basically just gets rid of everything, and then it comes back during your next standby phase to be able to just board wipe the field and do 3k, which is just really good because once this card summons itself back, once per turn during the standby phase, after this card is banished, you can special summon this banished card, and then if Numeron Network is in your field spell zone, you inflict damage to your opponent for all banished XZs, which is going to be 3 off of this effect, which is really good. So you can actually summon out C1 off of this. You can also summon out some Link monsters with this particular effect, because you can summon out your copy of Megaclops, Appaloosa, or your copy of the Closed World, which is just really good if you want to use one of your opponent's monsters. So these are the big plays that you're going to be going into this deck, which is going to be really nice. The safest play of them all is to actually summon out your copy of your Megaclops, because once you go in for first turn, you can just link 3 of these away and summon out that copy of Megaclops to your side of the field up here, and then basically this will go to the graveyard, and once you do, you're going to go ahead and pass over to the opponent, but you'll have to discard a card unless you set something to your side of the field, which is totally fine. Now once we go back over to us, we're going to draw for turn, which is going to be a really good setup in our hand, because if you want to, if your opponent actually outs the copy of Megaclops, which will happen every so often, you will get all sorts of different plays again, because you're going to be able to just immediately activate the Numeron Network again, which is what I wanted to show you guys how powerful this deck actually is, because the Numeron calling can activate every single turn. Now you play 2 sets of the gates, so you can just do this all over again if you want to go in for the gates, or if you don't want to go for the gates right off the bat, you can actually just normal summon out your copy of your Planet Pathfinder and then tribute it to add the gate that you need from your deck to your hand, or excuse me, the field spell that you need from your deck to your hand to go in for Numeronius. So we're actually going to add the copy of Numeron Network from our deck to our hand, because the effect of Numeron calling states that you can't normal summon for the rest of the turn, but one time, which is pretty neat, because at the bottom of the card it reads that you can summon those cards but banish them during the end phase, and also you can only normal summon or special summon once for the rest of the turn. Now those gates will be banished from the graveyard. One of them will be banished, the one that you didn't use as materials, but it doesn't super matter because they're all pretty much the same card. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to send this to the graveyard now, and we're going to summon out all of our gates all over again to our side of the field. And I'm actually going to show you guys how to summon out to your side of the field the copy of C1000, which is really crazy that you can summon that powerful card in this deck. So once you've summoned out all these cards to your side of the field, you're then going to use one of them, and you're going to XZ summon with the number 1 to be able to go into our copy of the CR1, which is really powerful to go into that card. It will banish everything on your side of the field. Every single card that is a monster on the field is completely banished, which is not that big of a deal, but you want to get them off the field. So at this point, now that you've banished those cards, you're just going to go ahead and set another card face down, and then pass over to the opponent. Now once you pass over to the opponent, we can go back to our turn, and once we go back to our turn, we're going to draw, and then you're going to bring this card back to the field. Now, the way that you actually have to summon out the copy of C1000 is to use the copy of Numeron Chaos Ritual. Now this card has the ability of a face-up number C1, Numeron Chaos Gate Sonya, that you control is destroyed by a monster effect this turn, that you can target one of your Numeron networks and 4 of your number monsters in the graveyard, and then summon out your copy of number C1000, or the copy of Numeronius, which is really good, but it comes out at 1,000 or 10,000 attack and 1,000 defense, and if you do, attach all 5 of those targets to that monster. So now at this point, all you have to do is destroy this card. So all we are going to do is we're going to summon out our copy of Summoner Monk to our side of the field. We're going to use the Summoner Monk's effect and discard our copy of Numeron Network, because we want to get it in the graveyard at this point. So at this point, you're going to summon out to your side of the field a copy of Exiled Force. Now, this card is a super old school card that you can actually summon to your side of the field. So once we do this, this card has the ability that you tribute this card to destroy one monster on the field. So we're going to destroy our copy of the C1 on our side of the field. And then if you didn't have this in your hand, you could use the copy of your Numeron network if you didn't control your copy of Summoner Monk to be able to go off, to be able to activate this card because it was activated in the hand. We're just going to go ahead and send this card, and then we're going to summon out our copy of our C1000 Numeronius by attaching all of the gates that we have between 1 to 4 to this card and our copy of Numeron Network, which is just super cool. Just to summon out that card to our side of the field, we're just going to grab this and this and this to this card, and we're going to attach all of these cards to our copy of our C1000, which is just an insanely powerful boss monster that comes out at 10,000 attack points. Now, the reason you have the lava golems in this deck is because you can actually tribute your opponent's monsters to summon this card out, but you can't normal summon the turn that you do that. But it's not that big of a deal because if you summon out the gates, you can just give this to your opponent, and if you know you have game, you can swing into the copy of lava golem if you want to go that route as well. That's why it's in here for a tech card, or if you need to go in for all your plays, you have the Dark Ruler No Mores to stop your opponent. So let's go into the next test hand now that you guys have seen exactly how to summon this card and see how many times we can actually summon it in this video. This card is a really powerful card and really easy to summon, but I wanted to show you guys the safe play that you can do, and I wanted to show you guys the really all-in play that you can do with this particular deck. So as you guys can see, the deck is really, really easy to OTK your opponent. All you pretty much have to do is draw into a copy of the Numeron Network or a card that can actually summon out to your side of the field your copies of your gates really easily, like your copies of your wall to get to your field spell, draw into a copy of Terraforming to get into your copy of your field spell. This deck works around Numeron Network, and it's really, really, really important to get that card to your hand as quickly as possible. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck again and see what we can actually pull off. So we're going to go ahead and riffle the deck really quick, and once we do, we're going to go ahead and see what we can pull off. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of the Numeron Wall, Numeron Network. This is already really good. A copy of Summoner Monk, a copy of Numeron Wall, and a copy of Neos Fusion this time. So this card is a card that I've teched into this deck to help you out just board wiping your opponent just in case you need to. So let's go ahead and activate the copy of our Numeron Wall because we want to get that card off as quickly as possible because we actually have the C1000 in our hand right out here. So I'm going to show you guys the quick and easy way to actually summon that card out in this particular combo. So what we're going to do is we're going to send this card to the graveyard, which is our Numeron Wall. And once we do, we're going to activate Numeron Network from the deck. So once we activate Numeron Network from the deck, we're then going to use its effect and just send our copy of our Numeron Calling from the deck to the graveyard. So once we send our copy of Numeron Calling from our deck to the graveyard, we're going to copy that effect, and we're going to summon out to our side of the field the copy of number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 1. And once you summon out all of these cards to your side of the field, then all you have to do is XZ summon one more time into your copy of C1, which is going to banish all of these cards on your side of the field, and then going to send this to the graveyard because it was a material on your copy of C1, and then pass over to the opponent. Once your opponent passes over, you're going to summon this card back to your field, and it's going to inflict 3,000 damage to your opponent because we have the 3 banished gates, which is pretty cool. Now at this point, it's very, very easy how you're actually going to summon to your side of the field the copy of the Exile Force to pop this card and get your copy of Numeron Network to the graveyard. So we're going to draw for turn and draw into a Summoner Monk, and once we do, we're going to summon out our copy of Summoner Monk to our field, use its effect, discard the copy of the Numeron Network, and then once you discard the copy of the Numeron Network, we're then going to send from our deck to the, or summon to our side of the field, we're going to actually summon to our side of the field the copy of Exiled Force all over again. And once you summon that card, you're going to use it to be able to pop your copy of the C1. And then once you pop the copy of C1, this card's going to go to the grave. This is going to go to the grave. We've met the requirements for our Chaos Ritual, which is really cool because of our Numeron Network. Even though we don't have it in the hand, you can use this card to be able to send it to the graveyard, which is really cool because during the main phase, you can send any of your Numeron normal spells that meets the activation requirements from your deck to the graveyard, and then this spell effect becomes that card's activated effect, which is super cool. So since our copy of C1 was destroyed on our side of the field, you can then send from your deck to the graveyard that copy of our Chaos Ritual, the Numeron Chaos Ritual, which basically says if your copy of C1 gets destroyed, then you can actually send this card to the graveyard off of Numeron Network and be able to activate it as long as you have a Numeron Network in the graveyard. So we're just going to go ahead and summon it out to your side of the field. And once we do, we're then going to summon out our copy or use the copies of our Numeron Network, the copy of our 1 through 4 gates, and we're going to basically equip those cards as materials to our copy of our C1000 Numeronius, which is going to come out at 10,000 attack points. Now, this card is really awesome, but it gets even better than summoning out our copy of C1000. You guys might be thinking, how? How can we get even better than this? Well, you can actually use the copy of Neos Fusion because you can special summon one fusion monster from your X deck that lists exactly 2 materials, including a Elemental or Neos, and sending those cards from your hand deck or graveyard, ignoring the summoning conditions, which is pretty cool. But you can't special summon monsters, or after this card resolves, you can't special summon monsters. But we're not special summoning after this effect, so we can just go ahead and drop the copy of Neos Fusion. And once we drop that copy of Neos Fusion, we're going to send from our deck to the graveyard our copy of Elemental Hero Neos, and we're going to send our copy of our Rainbow Dark Dragon. So once we send those to the graveyard, that's just the materials to be able to summon out the copy of Rainbow Neos, which is going to give us a complete OTK against the opponent, because now you can use the copy of Rainbow Neos, tribute the leftover Summoner Monk that we have on the field, and it's going to get rid of every single monster on their field and shuffle them back, which is really cool because it has the ability you send one monster you control to the graveyard, shuffle all monsters your opponent controls into the deck, and then we attack for 10,000 for game, which is really cool. Now, if you don't OTK them there, and let's just say that your opponent board wipes you with a card effect, that's actually how you're going to summon out your copy of your really big monster, which is the number IC 1000 Numeronius Numeronia. So this card is super interesting to actually summon, but it's really reliant on your opponent and what they're actually doing because of the effect of our C1000 Numeronius. It has the ability that basically if this card you control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, while it has a material and is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon out one number IC 1000 Numeronius Numeronia from your X deck, and if you do, attach this card as a material. So, let's say your opponent Dark Holes you, activates Lightning Storm, hits you with a copy of Dragoons, hits any of your cards by any way, they destroy this card by a card effect. They just get rid of it. They're usually not going to get over it by battle because this card is actually going to come out at 10,000. But let's just say that they do. Let's just say they get past this card in some way. We're going to just immediately go, oh, okay, you destroyed it with a Dark Hole. That's fine. We're just going to summon it back, and then we're going to go ahead and put the copy of our IC 1000. Now, this card is insane. It is the only copy, it is the only one of its kind. It's the only one of a rank 13 monster in the entire game. So this card is just crazy powerful. This card is actually used by the final villain in our Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, which is just really insane, Dawn 1000. And this card has the ability that if this card is special summoned by the effect of a number IC or number C1000 Numeronia, then it gains 100,000 attack points. This is literally the most powerful monster in the entire game when it comes to the field, and it doesn't even end there. It actually is a win condition because monsters your opponent control must attack this card, and at the end of your opponent's turn, if this card didn't battle, you instantly win the duel. So they have to attack this card at least once or they auto lose. So this card is just crazy powerful to be able to summon to your side of the field to be able to OTK the opponent, or they're going to pass and they're going to instantly lose. So they have to out this card. The only downside of this card is it doesn't have a lot of built-in protection, so it is a little bit vulnerable, but it is just an insanely powerful boss monster to your side of the field to be able to go in for 100,000 attack point monster. So let's go ahead and do one more test stand and show you guys how the deck works, because as you guys can see, this deck is super consistent in what it's trying to do. As long as you get to your field spell or draw something that can get to your field spell, you're going to be okay, which is what's really nice about this deck. And especially with the copies of Neos Fusion in this deck, it's really easy to actually go in for game with the copies of the Rainbow Neos, and summoning that card to your side of the field is just really, really, really good. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what we can do for one more test hand. So now that we've got the deck good and shuffled, we're going to go ahead and cut the deck this time and see what we can pull off. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of Card Destruction, which is a really good card to get to your copies of your field spell, Summoner Monk, just to get to that other card, Lava Golem, Archfiend Eccentric, and a Planet Pathfinder. So this is a totally fine hand. You've got exactly what you need in your hand to be able to go off. So we're going to go ahead and normal summon out that Planet Pathfinder. This card will go to the graveyard because we're going to tribute it, and we're going to activate the copy of our Numeron network from the deck. Now usually you want to open up with Memories of Hope like we did in the first hand, but it doesn't always happen. But it's just really good because you get that draw 4. But we can still kind of do it a little bit because we can actually use these cards on our side of the field to dig into the deck a little bit because of the card destruction. So we're going to go ahead and activate the copy of Numeron Calling. And once you activate that copy of Numeron Calling, you can kind of just summon out your copies of your gates, which is really cool, just to summon out your copy of number 4, number 2, number 3, and even number 1 down here. And then you have all that option that we showed you guys at the beginning of the video that you can actually go in for IC Numeron Chaos Gate. You can go in for the IC or the C1000, or you can even go in for the Infinitrack Megaclops, depending on what you want to go for. Or if you feel like your opponent's playing a lot of monsters in their deck that you want to negate, you can summon out the Appaloosa, or you can use this card like a Kaiju with your Closed World, so you have all those different cards that you can actually summon with this particular lineup, because you get one more summon after you do this. So at this point, you can activate that copy of Card Destruction. Let's just take a peek if you did activate it. You draw into another copy of a Lava Golem, a Terraforming, and then a copy of Archfiend Eccentric, which would actually get us the plays that we need to go in for our C1000 again on the next turn, because you'd have all the different cards that you needed. So at this point, you can go in for that copy of C1, and then once you summon that, it's going to banish all of these on your side of the field, and then this is going to go to the graveyard as well, and this is going to be banished. Activate that copy of Terraforming, and once you do, you're going to get to add from your deck to your hand a Numeron Network, which is going to get us exactly what we need for our play. So let's go ahead and grab that copy of Numeron Network, which is actually on the top, which was actually really good because we could have just drawn into it if we didn't draw into the Terraforming. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck. And then once we do, we're going to let the opponent go, which does leave us a little bit wide open, which is the only downside of our copy of C1. And then we're going to summon this card back to our side of the field, do 3,000 points of damage, and then we're going to draw for turn. Once we draw, you can then activate the reinforcements of the army to grab from your deck to your hand the Exiled Force, which your opponent's going to see this and go, hey, wait, what are you doing? And then once you do, you can activate the Numeron Network on top of the Numeron Network, and then use the copy of the Exiled Force. Normal summon this card, pop the copy of IC, or the copy of the C1, excuse me, and then we're going to use the effect of our Numeron Network to be able to send the Chaos Ritual from our deck to the graveyard to be able to just immediately summon out to our side of the field the copy of Numeronia. And then once you do, you're going to equip as materials the copies of the Numeron Network and all of the gates that you have between 1 to 4. You don't get the copy of the C1, you just get the other gates that you're actually going to put on this card as a material. And then you have a 10,000 attack point monster. And then if they can't get through this card with a card effect or by battle, you're going to go to your turn again, draw into a copy of Lava Golem, and then you can just give your opponent the Lava Golem by tributing 2 monsters and swing through with your copy of C1000, which gets you no TK, which is the big play of this deck, is to actually go into this card. But if they destroy it, you'll just go ahead and send all these cards to the graveyard, and you'll go, oh no, there goes my boss monster. Well, guess what? It comes right back, and it gets bigger, because you can just summon out the copy of the Numeronia to your side of the field as 100,000 attack point boss monster. That gives you an instant win if they don't attack this card. This card is nuts, and it's super easy to summon, as you guys can see. All they have to do is, like, on summon, they'll be like, oh, how much does that have? 10,000? Oh, okay, Torrential Tribute. I'm like, oh, that's fine. Just summon out this card to my side of the field. They're like, wait, it just got so much worse. I'm like, yeah, now you have to attack it or you lose. So this card is just so good in this deck, and I'm really glad that they actually released this card. So I think that pretty much shows how the deck works, to show you guys exactly how easy it is. You're basically using the copies of the Archfiend Eccentrics and the copies of the Exiled Force to be able to pop your Numeron Network, or pop your copy of your Sonya on your side of the field to go in for your copy of C1000, which is just such a powerful boss monster. It's such a good card. in this deck, and I'm so glad that they finally released this card. I've been waiting forever for this card to actually come out, or this pair of cards to come out, because it's just such a good boss monster. So I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. Definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. If you guys would like to check out the deck profile, it is always down in the description down below for every test hand video. And thank you so much, Gene, for actually suggesting this deck, because this deck is absolutely nuts and summons out literally the most powerful monster in the entire game with our copy of IC-1000 Numeronia. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.